Thank you. Thank you for that. I would like to probably respond to the question asked on why some companies have been in losses for quite some time and they are still standing. I will speak specifically to the case of Airtel, that for Airtel, it is in the telecommunications sector that is very capital intensive. Right now, as Airtel, we are talking about 4,200 sites. And for us, we need to maintain that site or that network for us to be able to serve our customers. Yes, for us to maintain that network, we also need to keep on upgrading our network. And this requires a lot of investment. And the reason why we keep on investing in this is because the shareholders of this company, they have confidence that at one point that they're going to turn around this company. Thank you.
Yeah, so let me pick it up from there, and we are referring to Clause 8C and Clause 8D of the Finance Bill 2025. And Chair and honorable members, just allow me to give you a bit of history around this provision of the law. Through the Finance Act 2009, there was a similar proposal which capped the carry forward of tax losses to 5 years. The difference is the proposal had a provision for extension of losses beyond the 5 years. And this was supposed to be extended by the Cabinet Secretary in charge of the National Treasury. A few years later, I guess there must have been very many applications. A few years later, Finance Act 2015 then amended the law to remove the 5 years and substitute with 10 years. But still, the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury, also had the opportunity to extend the losses on a case-by-case basis. 2021, we then again changed the law, and we say that these losses can be carried forward indefinitely. So as we speak, the losses can be carried forward indefinitely. And what we are asking is, just associating ourselves with what our predecessors said, our prayer would be for this to be deleted. And in the alternative, we'll be saying, since we've already tested 5 years and 10 years, why don't we, at the bare minimum, go for 10 years with room for extension? And I do agree with the comments that you made earlier on, Chair, that this is going to particularly affect the capital-intensive sectors of the economy. We also have some very low-margin businesses that take a very long period of time to break even, and we need to encourage innovation in the country. That's how we are going to be able to create jobs. So our prayer is that, two prayers. The first one is Clause 8C, if it is not deleted, we replace the word 5 with 9, so that in total we'll be having 10 years. And the second one is that Clause 8D of the Finance Bill is deleted, so that the CS, the Cabinet Secretary in charge of National Treasury, will also have discretion to extend the losses beyond the 10 years on a case-by-case basis. The next proposal, before I go to the next proposal, we've done a bit of benchmarking across Africa. We have been able to cite 4 African countries. The first one is Tanzania, where they can be able to carry forward their losses indefinitely. We have South Africa, they can carry forward their losses indefinitely, but there's a rider. So for South Africa, even though you carry forward your losses indefinitely, for every taxable year, you can only utilize a maximum of 80% of the losses. In Uganda, you are able to carry forward the losses for a period of 7 years, but there is provision for extension of the same. In Rwanda, they've stuck to 5 years, but again, there's provision for extension on the same. If we go across outside of Africa, we have other Commonwealth countries, the United Kingdom and Australia. Both of them allow for carry forward of losses indefinitely. So our prayer is that this is going to be allowed, and I want to invite Cynthia to just tell us what the benefit is going to be for the telecommunications sector.
Thank you, Edna, and Honorable Chair and members. Just to wrap up the first 2 industry proposals, if you consider the proposals favorably, we'll see 2 impact to our customers. One of them is that if we're able to get the spectrum license capital allowances, it will translate in lower costs to our customers, because the spectrum license speaks to our cost to carry, which you would be able maybe to relate with cost of sales in the case of goods. So if we are able to reduce our cost to carry, then it will translate in lower costs for our customers. And taking into consideration that the government today is pushing for digital services, digital connectivity, we want to be able to have all our customers or all Kenyan citizens be able to access government services. With respect to the tax losses, would really want you to consider our proposals favorably so that you can allow businesses to do what it is that they do, to concentrate on what their core is, as government also continues to create an environment where we are able to incubate and come up with better products.
Okay, your time is off.
So we have one last one, which we'll present very quickly. This one is actually two. There's VAT on bad debts. The predecessor group had already touched on this, so we'll take a very short period of time on this. And then finally, we'll be talking about investment deduction for Airtel. So we can just set the scene on VAT on bad debts, Cynthia?
All right, so thank you, members. So I'll not speak too much to it. In fact, I just want to first appreciate that our proposal was considered with a reduction from the current 36 months to 24 months. Our proposal is to reduce it further to 12 months so that at least we are able to inject capital into businesses, especially during this season when it's very challenging as a businessman to run our businesses.
Thank you, Cynthia. So just to break down what Cynthia has said, Chairman and honorable members, so we are grateful that we have a shorter waiting period when you have VAT on bad debts. So how do these VAT on bad debts arise? I could be trading with you, and for one reason or another, you've not been able to pay my debts, but upfront, I'll be required to pay that VAT. So it means that KRA has already collected this VAT, and a classic example would be when around the pending bills. KRA has already collected this VAT, but I would have to wait for my customers to be able to pay the VAT back to me. So currently, the law provides that for a waiting period of 3 years, and we are very grateful that this waiting period under Clause 33A of the Finance Bill has been reduced to 24 months. So, and we are saying that if you look at the 24 months, KRA, once you lodge your refund claim, KRA has 3 months to be able to ascertain that refund claim, and there's a proposal under Clause 50B of the Finance Bill to increase that to 4 months instead of the current 3 months. Then KRA has another 4 months to do the audit. There's a proposal under Clause 50C of the Finance Bill to increase this from 4 months to 6 months. And then eventually, once the refund claim has been approved by the Revenue Authority, you have a waiting period of 6 months. Chair, I don't understand why you have to wait for 6 months to be able to offset that VAT refund claim or whatever refund you have against current or future liabilities. So our proposal is, let us reduce this from the current 49 months that we have in the law, which is 4 years, 1 month. The current proposal in the Finance Bill is going to reduce this by 9 months to 40 months, but we are saying that there's an opportunity also to reduce this further to about 22 months. And how this will be done is that, one, we propose that Clause 33A is amended from 24 months to a waiting period of 12 months. We note that Clause 50B is asking for more time to increase 33 months to 4 months, and 50C is also requesting for an increase from 4 months to 6 months. But the alternative would be, can we delete the provision that requires taxpayers to wait for 6 months to be able to offset this refund against current or future liabilities, so that in total we have 22 months, which is less than 2 years, and this is going to inject liquidity into the economy and is going to help various businesses with working capital needs. I will invite Nicholas to take the last one.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Edna. I think the last one covers the enhanced investment deduction that's been covered under Clause 27 of the Finance Bill 2025. And the Finance Bill 2025 proposes to delete this tax incentive that's normally applicable to capital investments that are made outside Nairobi and Mombasa, as well as the SEZ zones. I think, Mr. Chair, what we need to take into consideration is that this tax incentive has been very instrumental in driving infrastructure development in underserved regions in Kenya that are mainly outside Nairobi and Mombasa. And really down home closely to telecommunication perspective, This incentive has enabled the rollout of critical network infrastructure in counties which would otherwise remain commercially unviable, as well as no one will want to invest in them due to the high capital cost together with lower immediate returns. If we retain this tax incentive, ideally it will be an enabler of a national connectivity, as most telecommunication companies will be keen to invest outside Nairobi and Mombasa. Secondly, if you look from a government perspective, the government is keen to ensure that there's digital transformation, especially to ensure there's universal access of digital government services, e-commerce, educational services, as well as emergency services. This will require the private sector, especially the telecommunication sector, to invest quite a lot in the infrastructure and roll out across Kenya for everyone in each part of country to enjoy these services. Hence, this incentive plays a critical role for the private investment or private sector to invest quite extensively, not only covering the regions which are profitable for them, but will have been the major cities, that is Mombasa, Nairobi, and Kisumu. Thirdly, this tax incentive has been one of the key attractive or catalyst for foreign investors investing into the SEZ zones. And in this case, you'll find that even other countries, especially the likes of Ethiopia, have opted to adopt this structure whereby they give capital incentives to those people who are doing, or tax incentives for those people who are investing in those zones, the SEZ zones. And if, for example, as Kenyans, we remove this tax incentive and we leave now the other regions having those incentives in their legislation, you'll find that everyone will now be forced to go to those other regions, making Kenya less popular, and losing, from a Kenyan perspective, we'll be losing foreign direct investment. I think coming also close home, as what had been talked about by our former presenters who were the Kenya Chambers of Commerce, if we do keep these incentives, we are looking at attracting foreign currencies into Kenya, and we won't have to suffer. Remember previously what we were undergoing when there was acute dollar shortage. I think I'll pause there, and thank you for the opportunity to present.
You are done?
Yes.
Yes, we are done, Chair.
You know, we have been here since Monday, last week. So we have listened to most of these things. So my request is let us be very brief on some of these things. So because we have listened to them, and member from Ondo.
I think, Chair, we've had their proposal, and we will take time to consider their input. But this issue of loss carryover, I think we need to agree that those who will be entitled, they should be identified, not blanket. Because from our own perspective and the research, small research which we've done, these are the clauses which have been misused for long. Yeah, and it has made Kenya to lose a lot of money, among other things which you've not mentioned, but they've come over through other agencies. Otherwise, thank you, Chair, for the time.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I don't have much, but some of these things I think they are going. The proposals are addressing tax expenditures. By 2023, tax expenditure in this country was 510 billion shillings, which is very high because if you look at our deficit, it's around 800 billion. Now, if we have already given 510 billion, really, we are not doing very good in terms of, which is around 3.3% of our GDP. We are not doing very well. But my question is, this clause 27, incentives on firms which want to invest in Nairobi, do you have any data? How many have invested also in Nairobi since this came to operation? Yeah. Yes.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. We don't have the actual data, but you can see some of the investment that have been done, especially if you look from a power sector perspective. You'll find that there have been a lot of power projects that have been outside Nairobi and Mombasa. Secondly, if you look at the infrastructure projects that have also been done by the telecommunication companies, as much as, yes, they have to set up in the major zones where they have most clients, they are required by the law to also serve the other people outside the region. So they are forced by the law to put up, can you say, the base stations outside Nairobi and Mombasa. And this is a capital intensive project or exercise. And that's why we are requesting your indulgence for it.
Looking for is a startup. A startup, not, whatever they are doing, the telecom,
Yeah.
they are extending their services there because they are in business and they want to capture more people. But I'm looking at a farm which has started a business in a particular town or county. Yeah. Maybe you may not have it, but I'm trying to check your thoughts. When you are coming to present, this is a kind of information we need, right? Your argument should be based on empirical data. You get me, Edna? Yeah, it should be. So thank you very much, Edna. You are always amazing. Today you have brought two competitors to the same table. Yeah, you have brought two competitors to the same table to present on common issues. Thank you very much. Let me introduce the Vice Chair, and after introduction, I hand over to him.
Thank you, Honorable Mboni. Thank you for chairing the session, and everybody else, welcome to this public participation forum. My name is Benjamin Langat, MB for Ainamoi, Kericho County, member and vice chair of this committee. Asanteni sana.
Chair, before I hand over, we have Edna. Edna is from PwC? Yes. She's representing...
How many?
11 different entities. She has only covered 2. She has 9. And each one of them she's requesting for 30 minutes. I don't know if you are going to complete. But I think they are done very well. They are done very well.
Okay.
So, yeah. So she's in charge of 3/4 of this group. In fact, there's only another 3 entities. So Edna has like 90%. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And she's my friend. She has been my friend for quite some time. Yeah.
I like your...
So treat her with soft groups.
We will finalize because my approach is different. We are not going to speak in perpetuity. Even in the National Assembly, we don't speak in perpetuity. We are timed. Yeah. So you focus on what is important to you. If you engage in irrelevancies, I will cut you off with time. So focus with what is very important to you. Each presentation, 15 minutes maximum. And if you can take less, that will be the best. So that, like yesterday, we were able to cover, I think, 15 presentations in 3 hours. So even today, we will do the same. So, PwC, I'm giving you, I hear you still have 9. If you can finish within 1 hour, and if there are things which are cross-cutting, let's finish in the shortest time possible. So I'll give you maximum 1 hour.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. 1 hour might be a very short period of time, but we will try our best. The next team is the American Tower Corporation, so I will ask them to come forward, introduce themselves, and just go straight into the issue. Under your guidance, Chair, I think we just go directly into the issues without covering the background of each of the entities. So
Correct.
Yeah. Led by my colleague Salome, start by introducing yourselves.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is Kevin Muregi, and I'm the head of finance at American Towers. Thank you for this opportunity.
Good afternoon, Chair. My name is Salome Kaiba, Tax Director at PwC. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair. My name is Lawrence Mungai, a Senior Manager at PwC.
Okay.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Charity Kihumba, PwC. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go straight to the issues as you have requested so that we can spend the minimum time possible. But I will just give Kevin to do a brief introduction.
Mr. Chair, American Towers is one of the biggest investors in Kenya, and we generally construct telecommunication towers that enable mobile companies and even ISPs to operate in the country. And we've really made a lot of investments in the country, and we look forward to being still one of the biggest investors in the country. And we have a couple of tax proposals that my team from PwC will take lead in, and then I'll conclude on why these particular proposals are very important for our business.
Thank you. We will start with the first proposal by Lawrence.
Thank you. So our first proposal is with regards to the issue of the repeal of paragraph 1A of the first schedule of the Income Tax Act that provides for the accelerated capital allowances subject to meeting certain thresholds in terms of the location of the investment as well as the quantum of the investment. So our proposal is for the retention of paragraph 1A of the first schedule of the Income Tax Act in its current form. And our justifications for that particular proposal I'll enumerate them. So one, that particular proposal in its current states catalyzes infrastructure investment. The accelerated capital allowances have been a critical incentive for encouraging large-scale infrastructure investment in counties outside Nairobi and Mombasa. So companies like ATC are able to recover significant capital costs incurred faster, improve their cash flow, and also enable reinvestment in underserved regions. So you'll notice in one of our slides, we've just tried to show the tower coverage across different counties. That's slide 12. And you'll see there's quite a number of effort required in terms of ensuring tower coverage across some of the marginalized counties. As you'll see, the major counties are where most of these towers are found. This particular proposal will support in terms of encouraging the decentralization of those telecommunication towers. The second justification is that our proposal aligns with the government's priorities as enumerated in the Vision 2030 and the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. And this is basically with regards to digital inclusion, rural connectivity, and the expansion of the ICT infrastructure. So basically, these allowances will reduce the financial burden with regards to the construction of telecommunication towers, hence enabling faster rollout of broadband and mobile services in these marginalized areas, hence supporting the bridging of the digital divide. Lastly, we also did, rather the third point, we did a benchmarking just to ascertain what other countries are doing with regards to this particular issue. And we've noted that within the region, the likes of Rwanda, Tanzania, and Zambia are providing for an accelerated capital allowance. In the case of Rwanda, it's 50% per annum. In the case of Tanzania and Zambia, it's 25% per annum. And in the case of Nigeria, it's 50% in the first year of use, and then 25% per annum thereafter. Then when you go offshore, the likes of Ireland and UK currently have a similar capital allowance of 100% on these qualifying assets. So should we retain, or if our proposal is taken into consideration, it will enhance our competitiveness with regards to attracting foreign direct investment in the telecommunication infrastructure. Then lastly, this particular proposal would not really, as much as it would be seen as a deferral of tax revenue, it does not eliminate the issue of revenue collection because of the multiplier effect that would arise in terms of enhancing connectivity, mobile connectivity and internet connectivity in the country. This is as a result of revamping or encouraging the digital economy, and also in light of the investments that will be made, there will be the multiplier effect of job creation, from which of course PAYE and other taxes can be collected. So in summary, those are our justifications, and we are urging the chair to favorably consider a proposal of retention of that particular paragraph. Thank you.
The second proposal, I think, has been discussed, and the chair mentioned, the previous chair mentioned that this is a big issue. So it's carry forward of tax losses. It's been mentioned by Safaricom and Airtel. There are companies that are very capital intensive. And because of capital intensivity of business, of course, sometimes they are not able to recoup the investment within very early in the years, and so their business end up incurring tax losses. So what we are proposing in this finance bill, ATC, or American Tower Corporation, is one of those companies that are huge capital intensive because of putting down infrastructures. I'm sure you know that the towers, they are very capital intensive. So our proposal is to extend the carry forward of tax losses from what we are proposing of 5 years to 10 years with another recommendation that if you're not even able to deduct the tax losses within 10 years, then upon recommendation of the commissioner, because you have to apply and give justification to the commissioner on why you are not able to utilize the tax losses within 10 years, then the commissioner can still extend the tax loss carry forward. And when Edna was presenting on Safaricom at Airtel, she covered how the tax loss carry forward is done in the other countries, so I will not belabor on that. So you find the other countries, they don't carry forward tax losses for 5 years. Most of the other countries, just to encourage investment, it's more than 5 years. Some countries like South Africa, it's indefinitely. Others like Tanzania, which is our neighboring country here, is also indefinitely. Where the carry forward is for like 7 years, like you find in Uganda, then you can apply for extension. So I think that's something that as a government of Kenya, we need to consider. There are these companies that are very capital intensive. We need to give them a chance to utilize their tax losses for longer period. The other proposal, it's not contained in the finance bill. It's a proposal that we had submitted in the previous year. It's on the withholding tax. So basically for American Tower Corporation, when they lease the space on the tower to customers. The customers are here. It's Safaricom, Airtel, and Telkom. When the customers are making payment to them, they withhold tax at 7.5%. But because, of course, as we are saying, these have been a capital-intensive company for a very long time. So when they withhold, then it means for their corporate tax, it results into a tax credit, which they need to be paid by the Revenue Authority. As you know, how our refund system, as much as you have tried over and over again how it works in Kenya, we just need to be sure of that sometimes you don't get the refunds on time. And you need that money to reinvest in the business. So what we are proposing is, there is a paragraph paragraph 5JA of the third schedule that provides for withholding tax of 7.5% in respect of rent, premium, or similar consideration for use of or occupation of immovable property. What we are requesting is if a proviso can be included to exempt persons whose cumulative value of investment as at 31st December 2024, the value of investment is at least 2 billion. So we are requesting those capital-intensive companies, they be exempted from this withholding tax? Alternatively, to reduce this withholding tax to 5%, because it will allow them, even if they, it will allow them to reinvest that money back to the economy. When we checked how the other countries are applying this, like Tanzania, there is no withholding tax on this rent of immovable property or rent of telecommunication towers.
Do you have statistics of how much the amount of withholding tax that has accumulated over the years for American Tower?
Yes. So currently they...
Can it be offset with the tax liability?
Currently, no, because of the capital-intensive nature of the business and because of the VAT, they have VAT credit position as we speak. The corporate tax, they don't have a payable position because of, as we have discussed. So the accumulation is more than 3 billion shillings. That is with the Revenue Authority. So it's accumulated over the years and they haven't really been getting the refunds. So we are requesting that withholding tax can be removed for them or for capital-intensive business, then it will help them to recover their business and invest in more towers. I think that's all. We have one last issue on minimum top-up tax.
Thank you, Chair. The final issue that we'll be presenting on for ATC is on minimum top-up tax. It is the provision that was introduced by the Tax Law Amendment Act of 2024 in December, introducing Section 12G of the Income Tax Act. And this provision, however, exempts some entities from application of this tax. One of them is called a real estate investment vehicle, or a RAVE, or in other terms also called a RATE, so that are ultimate parent entities. So you'll note that for ATC, the ultimate parent entity, American Tower Corporation, which is incorporated in the US, is considered a real estate investment trust or vehicle from the perspective of the US law. So the issue that we have two issues with this provision as it is, which is affecting ATC. The first one being that the law, while it talked about exempting real estate investment vehicles that is the ultimate parent entity, it did not define what exactly is a real estate investment or real estate investment trust, and it didn't say from which jurisdiction are we going to look at in interpreting whether an entity is which can bring a lot of confusion, because in some countries, for example, in the US, as I said, the ATC is considered a rate or a RAVE, and that would be to minimum top-up tax. However, when you come to Kenya, there's no clarification on whether such a definition would apply in a similar way. So what we are asking on that is that the definition be looked at again and extended in terms of assigning the meaning of this term. We look at the meaning that is assigned from the country of residence of the ultimate parent entity, so that there's lack of confusion in terms of interpreting whether, for example, ATC Kenya can fall in under that
You see, Madam,
yes,
how is American Tower registered in Kenya, recognized in Kenya? How is registered in America is different. We see American Tower in the Kenyan legal status context. I know you want to bring another story we had last year. Yeah, there was a group who came to threaten us here. I don't know what was the name of that group. So, first of all, before you go there, how is American Tower recognized in Kenya, the legal status in Kenya? Is it a real estate, is it a rate as you said in America?
Yes, ATC is a rate in America.
No.
So here in Kenya,
you see the problem. The problem is you're answering your own question. I ask you, how is it the legal status in Kenya?
We are a limited liability company in Kenya.
So let us talk from that perspective. How is it recognized in America? That is American business. So talk to us, how is it recognized in Kenya?
Yes, Chair. Kevin has talked about that, and the issue is because this law, the way it is applied, it revolves interaction between countries. For example, if the tax is not collected in Kenya, it's collected in the US. So there's an interaction between the laws in Kenya and the laws in other jurisdictions in terms of applying the minimum top-up tax. And that is why even the laws have been based on a sort of a standard, sort of what you're calling model rules. And that's why the countries, when they're implementing them, they have to also consider what other countries are also doing in terms of this. But you can, that is clear.
We will consider it, but maybe our legal officer will tell us maybe later. Yeah, we'll get advice from our legal counsel. But in my own way, I said, how you are recognized in Kenya is how we should handle you. Because if we go that direction, the Canadian companies will come and say, we are a housing company in Canada, but here in Kenya, so, anything else?
Yes, just concluding on that.
Okay.
So the last portion of the proposal is to also include exempting subsidiaries of what you call the RAVs and other exempted entities. And we are basing this on the fact that other countries and also the model rules that I've talked about also have similar provision of exempting subsidiaries of such entities when they meet a certain criteria. And this is just in line with what other jurisdictions are implementing the law. And I can stop there, Chair.
Which slide are you?
I was on slide 31.
31.
Yeah.
The last one, huh? That's one, yeah. Okay. Okay, I think we'll consider.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, you're done.
So
Yes,
just
to conclude, Kevin.
So I just want to conclude. Thank you, my PwC team. So there was a request if any statistics have been done on the kind of impact the proposals we are giving would have on the economy. And I'd like to draw your attention to a report that was done by GCMA and CA, that is the Communications Authority, which highlighted that at the time of the report, the mobile ecosystem contributed around 1.2 trillion to Kenya's GDP, and the same ecosystem had contributed 212 billion in tax revenues. And in line with the digital transformation agenda that we have, the country stood a chance of increasing the GDP by an additional 662 billion by 2028. At the same time, increasing tax revenues by 150 billion by 2028 and creating 300,000 jobs. And the first policy recommendation that was done in that report is reducing sector-specific taxes and specifically lowering the telecom sector taxes to incentivize these infrastructure investments that are needed to bridge that gap and earn the government more money and increase our GDP. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
How many employees are employed by American Tower?
So we have a whole ecosystem where we have around 150 employees, but at the same time we outsource most of our works, and in the process we have around 50 companies that support our company, and those 50 companies have on average, I'd say close to 100 employees each, because these companies are the ones that now help us to maintain our towers when we construct them.
So you outsource construction of towers?
We partner with people to assist us construct the towers and maintain those towers.
Okay. Proceed, whoever is...
Thank you.
And you're the manager of your time, so it's up to you how you spend your time.
All right, so Chair and honorable members, that is the end of the ATC presentation. I don't know whether you have questions or comments, or you'd want us to proceed to the next stakeholder.
You proceed, because I think we were moving together.
All right.
Yeah.
So virtual asset stakeholders, the floor is yours. I'll ask my...
Why don't you finish your is it on virtual assets service providers bill? This one?
No.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Chair, honorable members. Before you, we have a number of stakeholders in the virtual assets industry to make their presentations on the Finance Bill 2025. And I will just invite them to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and committee members. My name is Apollo Sunday, Country Manager at Luno Crypto Exchange.
Thank you, honorable members, for having my audience. My name is Dominic Mulinda. I'm the Chief Product Officer and a co-founder of a startup called Honeycoin.
Good morning. My name is Kega Gakua. I'm the Managing Partner of Kega & Company Advocates, as well as the Head of Legal and Partnerships at Swipe Limited, which is a crypto company here in Kenya.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Doreen Max. I am a Senior Associate and a PwC.
We are now afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon. Good afternoon once again, Chair and members. My name is Brian Kanyi, Senior Manager, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Apollo.
Honorable Chair, when we talk about cryptocurrency and blockchain, I just seek your indulgence to take 1 minute just to demystify what this is, then let the rest of my colleagues proceed to respect the time allowance that we have. Chair, the simple explanation of what this is we are talking about and requesting your indulgence on.
I think we have interacted with you before.
Okay, should I proceed or should I skip
So
this part?
Straight to tax issues now.
Appreciate
because
it.
Because we interacted with you, I believe, in the virtual assets service providers bill, which we are still considering. So
I'll be guided accordingly.
Go to
Thank
the
you.
issues of finance bill.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, in that respect, I shall go straight on to the main flash of our submissions today. And so fundamentally, tech thrives or dies on the altar of law and policy, and fundamentally as a sector want to be deemed and treated as financial institutions. And so to make this a reality, there are two things that need to happen. The first is deeming and treating digital assets as property. And so essentially what this is going to imply is an amendment of the 8th schedule to be able to accommodate the definition of digital assets as property. And then secondly, and more fundamentally, is recognition of virtual asset service providers as financial institutions. And so the reason why this is important is because of the services that we offer. And so what we're saying as a sector is that we'd prefer to be regulated on the basis of the services that we're offering and not the underlying technology that we're using. And so for that reason, what that would mean is that we would be, or rather, we would have the same exemption that other financial institutions have with the first schedule of the VAT Act. We would essentially obtain an exemption, while on the other hand, it would also mean that would fall under the regime of the Excess Duty Act. And so for that reason, fundamentally as a sector, want to be recognized as financial intermediaries, and that is going to require two things: the recognition of digital assets as property and recognition of virtual asset service providers as financial institutions. Thank you.
Chair and honorable members, I'll move on straight to the submissions on behalf of the stakeholders. So our first submission relating to what my colleague has mentioned is around the treatment of the digital assets and the taxation. So in 2023, there was the introduction of the digital asset tax, which is charged under Section 12F of the Income Tax Act. And the way it applies is that it is applied on the gross amount that has been transferred of the digital asset. So there are a number of challenges with this particular provision. The main one, which is one, it doesn't take into account the volatility.
Maybe first of all, so
Yes.
Have you been paying taxes?
So, Chair, part of what I will be describing...
Because we passed that bill, before even we go there, have you been... Where is the gentleman who wanted to talk?
Yes, it's actually the both of us. So, and yes, we have been. I represent a startup that's employed now 13 Kenyans and other Nigerians and Indians as well, represented in the business. We have a diversified set of services, and we've been paying our taxes and growing. We're actually pretty much on the hangman's nook, as it were.
No, I didn't ask you about
depending on
payee.
No. We have been paying our corporate income tax.
Digital service tax.
We have been paying our DAT, actually. We have been.
Digital?
Yes. And that is why we are here, because this fundamentally affects us.
Oh, because I heard this gentleman, I think he's the only one who wants to bring himself to the tax bracket by saying we want to be recognized as assets. So that's very good for you. Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. So it's with that compliance that we have noted a number of challenges with regard to the digital asset tax that was introduced. The main one is around the lack of taking into account the volatility that relates to some of these digital assets. So the same way currency can fluctuate in its value, the same way the digital assets can also fluctuate. And what this can also lead to is the investors can also incur very heavy losses. So when you apply the tax on gross, rather than taking into account whether or not a profit has been made, what you're then doing is actually making those losses much worse. So currently, the way the tax works is that regardless of whether or not you've made a profit or a loss, when you transfer the digital assets, the tax has to be payable. And what is then considered as income in the Income Tax Act is that you should be considering whether or not someone has made a gain or a profit from that particular transaction. Secondly, is that it doesn't actually recognize that some of these digital assets are also being used as payment instruments. So the same way I can pay through M-Pesa, the same way I pay through my bank, I can also use some of these digital assets to actually pay for goods and services. So the same way I'm sure you've heard, I can use Bitcoin or Ethereum to pay for certain goods and services off the internet. One of the things that will happen is that if the digital asset tax continues to be in place, is that it actually adds to the cost of that transaction. Because what happens is that if I transfer that Bitcoin or Ethereum for purposes of purchasing certain goods or services, what then happens is that the exchange will have to withhold at 3%. And because the person who is receiving will expect to receive the full amount that we had agreed on, what happens is that I then have to gross up the 3% so that they can receive the same amount of money that we had agreed. So essentially, we are adding a cost onto the transaction and distorting the economics of digital commerce. The other concern with regard to the digital assets is issues to do with double taxation. So, and one of the things that you'll find is that...
I expect when you raise a concern, you also give a proposal, say, this is what we are proposing, instead of the cross tax. What are you proposing?
Yes. So, Chair, I just wanted to articulate the challenges that are there with regard to the digital assets so that I can contextualize the proposal that we have. And our proposal, Chair, is to actually have this tax removed from the Income Tax Act. And I'm not saying this very lightly, and it's not going to leave the digital assets actually untaxed. There are already existing mechanisms for taxation of some of these transactions. And part of which is why we were asking for these particular assets to be considered property under our second proposal, which is on page 9. So the effect of this will be, if it's considered property, then it is subject to capital gains tax. What will then happen is that if I dispose of these digital assets and I actually have a gain from that disposal, then it should be subject to capital gains under the 8th schedule, subject to tax at 15%, right? So we're not actually taking away any sort of taxation, we're just saying it should be taxed the same way any other assets that can be disposed of or held as investments, such as marketable securities, such as shares or land. So our proposal, first and foremost, is to have the digital asset tax to be deleted, and then for digital assets to be included subject to tax under the 8th schedule as capital gains. And the justification for this, Chair, as I've mentioned, is fairness, to make sure that there's consistency in how we tax assets. Secondly, also make sure that we're not taxing losses that may accumulate from the volatility of or the fluctuations in value. And last but not least, also, Chair, is also because of what we have seen in other countries in terms of the benchmarking. So we've done a benchmarking, and what we have seen prevailing is that digital assets, cryptocurrencies, are actually taxed under capital gains regimes in the UK and in South Africa. So on the indirect tax, I'll invite Doreen.
Maybe before we delve into the indirect tax, it bears mention that this is something that had been contemplated by the government before. In 2022, there was a Capital Markets Amendment Bill that sought to recognize digital assets as securities, which in turn would recognize it as property. And the proposal at the time was to essentially deem it in the categories that is properly defined in terms of the Income Tax Act, as well as capital gains if you've held the asset for more than a year. And so for background, this is something that the government has already contemplated before.
Okay, so the proposal we are submitting today is for the VASPs to be recognized as financial institutions, basically because they provide services that are similar to what a financial institution is. Services such as the brokerage services, custody and safekeeping, payment and settlement, as well as just being able to facilitate exchange services and payment. So currently, in the VAT Act, the services rendered by the virtual asset service providers are not explicitly exempted, and we know if you're not specifically exempted in the exempt schedule or not zero rated as per the second schedule, then basically you're supposed to account for VAT at the rate of 16%. So the reason why we're submitting this proposal is to just avoid that sort of ambiguity, because they've not been paying VAT right now based on the understanding that they qualify as a financial institution. And again, the reason we're actually submitting this proposal is to align with the international best practices, where virtual assets are treated akin to financial services, financial assets, and most financial assets are actually exempt from VAT because of the cascading effect if you impose VAT on such assets. So looking at international best practices, UK and UAE actually exempt crypto trades, and any cryptocurrency transactions are not subject to VAT. Similarly for European Union, where the transactions that relate to virtual currencies are also exempt from VAT, unless you are now using the cryptocurrencies to pay for goods and services, where the goods and services will be treated, will be given the proper VAT treatment, but there is no VAT that will be applicable on the cryptocurrency itself. So the amendments we're proposing are in the Excise Duty Act and the VAT Act. Basically, in the VAT Act, just introduce an additional exemption under the first schedule to the VAT Act, exempting the supply of services provided by virtual asset providers in relation to dealings with virtual assets. And on the Excise Duty Act, including the virtual asset service providers as financial institutions, which will then mean that they're exempted from VAT, but they're liable to pay excess duty on money transfer fees and other fees at 15% and 20% respectively. The justification for this is just to ensure there's a functional parity and equity in taxation, basically because the VASP bill actually is aiming to recognize the virtual asset service providers as financial institutions. So because financial institutions are getting, they have a tax treatment, at least from an indirect tax perspective, that actually works, which I've actually talked about this, then we're asking for the VASP providers to also be accorded with a similar treatment, just to ensure there's a horizontal equity and ensuring that similar services are actually taxed in a similar manner. The other issue is the risk of double taxation, because again, when you buy goods and services using a cryptocurrency, if you tax the goods and services because they qualify for VAT and also tax the cryptocurrencies, you're actually imposing double taxation on the same transaction, which is actually going to result into stifling innovation in that sector, being that it's a new sector and at least it's where the future is heading. So to encourage this sector, we just need to tax them and treat them similarly to how we would treat the financial institutions. Thank you.
So thank you, Chair. And just to summarize in terms of the tax proposals, what we're then asking for is we institute a regime that would enable the growth of this particular sector. And as will be testified or closed by the stakeholders themselves, the government already has a policy to regulate but to enable this particular industry. We want to make sure that the tax regime is supportive and not disruptive of an industry that is still growing.
Thank you. So maybe before we conclude, I think it would be important for us to clarify the importance of the deletion of the taxation. Altogether, we really appreciate the fact that it was reduced from 3% to 1.5%. But I think, Dominic, it would be important for you to essentially illustrate in the form of a transaction exactly what the practical realities would be, if at all, would retain the same taxation. Dominic.
Yeah. Honorable members, we are on the cusp of probably another M-Pesa moment for Kenya. So imagine if you had a 1.5% DAT on moving your funds from M-Pesa to your bank. So if you moved your funds 10 times from your M-Pesa wallet to your bank account, you'd essentially lose 15% of the value of those funds that you're moving from one account to another. But at the same time, M-Pesa's success has been on the fees that it charges, right? And M-Pesa, in other banks as well, they're already on a very fair regime that incorporates both CIT and the excise duty, which is basically the parity that we are, in summary, trying to request for. Because the reality of these businesses that we operate is that they run on very thin margins. How is it really a comparable intermediary for financing if it does not compete or if it does not even challenge the incumbent existing frameworks? And that's because we are able to compete on pricing. And typically we are charging between 0.1 to around 1%. Now 1.5% is already order of magnitudes what the businesses are generating in revenue. So essentially, it undermines the work that the VASP bill has done because it does not incentivize any person to want to actually seek a license, because it really kills the business case for having to operate a VASP entity here if the taxation regime is pretty stringent. And the sad news about this is that we've been deliberating a very beautiful VASP bill that could potentially be copy-pasted in so many other markets on the continent. And if they can get the taxation bit right, basically that represents capital flight. It represents all of these innovations, all of the 102 plus startups that are waiting for the VASP bill to come out to seek those licensing, to begin taking their operations offshore. And it's very simple, and it's actually very easy for people to go underground, for traders to go underground, for participants in this industry to go underground, or to take their funds offshore, as has been the case. And I think the potential value for this is massive. Last year alone, over the region, we are talking about $125 billion worth of transactional volume. If we have a very well-structured, moderately measured, let's say excess duty, CIT combo, and income tax combo that works on this particular sector, we are encouraging everyone to come and set up, to seek licensing here, to bring that transaction volume here. And I think for me, that's basically the business case that I really wanted to illustrate.
And so, in conclusion, Chairman and members, us as a sector would want to be deemed as financial institutions and as intermediaries, and would equally want to enjoy the same benefits and responsibilities that other financial institutions have. Thank you.
Chair, can I go on? Yes. I think I'm a bit confused. We have a bill here on virtual assets, Providers Bill 2023. I don't know if you have looked at it.
Yes.
And the proposals which are here.
Correct.
Clause 6. Clause 7 of the bill is actually 6.7 is proposing to a setup of virtual assets authority regulatory. I don't know if you are aware about it.
Yes.
And then now you are proposing to become a financial institution. Now, financial institution, definitely you go to central bank. And this one is proposing an authority to regulate you. A financial institutions, I've just consulted. If you have to become a financial institution in this country and be regulated by central bank, then you have to be using fiat currency, which you are not using.
Kenya shillings.
Kenya shillings. So how are you going to become a financial institution when you are not even aware which currency you are using? Because see, your currency are imaginary. The digital currency is just imaginary, right? So why do you want yourself to put yourself under central bank? I'll give you an example. Last year but one, we did a bill which became an act on digital lenders to be regulated by central bank. Up now they are crying. Even to get the licenses is a problem. So why do you want to put yourself under central bank when even your colleagues in digital lenders, they cannot get a license? I think there are, how many licenses, the applications? Is it 80?
Over 80.
Which are not being processed. Now you want now to put yourself there. In fact, you are trying to force yourself there. Because you are trying to force yourself there, and you are not trading in Kenya shillings. So to me, my proposal, okay, those proposals you are doing, they are very important. But to me, if you can let this bill go through, first of all, this bill to go through, and then those other things now, we start looking at maybe next year in the finance bill, because this one is going to take up. It's a process. It will take some time. Mm-hmm. Then next year now you can bring out those other issues when you already have an authority, because there's no, even to set up the authority is going to take time. It's not just an event. It's a process. So that those other things we can look at them. That's why we tell you younger people. You like jumping the gun. Life is a process. You're already looking at the taxation. When the bill is, we are not even discussed the bill. But I like your proposals are good. But let's try to avoid this issue of becoming a financial institution. Because my fear is if you go to central bank, you'll be stuck there. You'll be stuck there. I'm telling you. Because 2 years ago, before we got the new governor, the former governor did not want to hear about virtual assets, did not want to hear about that. But at least nowadays we have, people have started understanding, even as we are now understanding it. But if you can pass this fast, then now we can now start looking at those things. Edna, Sion Muzuri, you always been supportive. But now...
Yeah, so thank you, Chairman and honorable members. I think the first thing we noted is that this proposal was presented by very young people, so the future is bright for this country. Yeah, and some of the concerns that they have, honorable member, probably just need to be looked at, because because what they're saying is that if they're using these virtual assets as a form of currency, then the taxation regime should be akin to the regime that you have for the financial institutions. And that's why they're asking for the digital asset tax to be removed, and instead we have an excise duty tax provision where they're going to be paying excise duty at the rate of 15%.
But first of all, let us recognize them through the bill. Now we don't know them.
Only that you're already taxing them.
Yeah, I think I like what my colleague has said. I think he read my mind, that I think we're in the right direction. The only issue is the speed in which this gentleman here is doing. Because you know we are in this bill of the Virtual Asset Service Providers Bill, which actually now gives you some legal recognition, legal regulation. It actually then even defines some of the things which many Kenyans don't know. So to me, I think you are putting the cat, is it after those or before? Yeah? I think if you can reduce your speed a bit, kidogo tu. Once you finalize this bill, this other bill, then other things will actually fall in place in terms of what you're asking. So, but we have heard you, and we will continue engaging you in this bill where the Virtual Asset Service Providers Bill, because we want to make it a futuristic law. So I think on what you have asked, good proposals, but maybe next year's finance bill will be the moment for those proposals, in my view. But of course, the committee, we will sit as a committee and discuss your issue. So do we still have any other?
Chair.
Okay, sorry. We have a new member who was walked in. Maybe he can introduce himself.
No, I was there. It's that.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to appreciate the young men, at least for having taken their time. Though I know Bonnie, who is very senior here, said they are going at a terrific speed. But let me appreciate what you guys are doing. Of course, as we go to retreat, we will think about what you have said. But first things first. And it is good. There are so many youths out there who don't even know what is going on. But let me take this opportunity to appreciate you guys. And I know, as you've been told, it is a process. We will get there. So don't get discouraged. Thank you.
Maybe just a point of clarification. I think one of the things that is stifling our progress as an industry is the fact that, as it is, we are already making loss-making transactions by the 1.5%.
We shall consider the issue of the taxation that is already there.
Thank you.
Which is it 1.5 proposal?
Yes.
So that one we'll consider.
Okay.
But we were discussing about considering you as financial institutions and
yes.
all those other things, I believe were the ones we are saying.
Yes.
We are overspeeding a bit.
Okay.
But the issue of taxation we shall consider.
Thank you.
Okay. So are we?
So we are done with this stakeholder. The next one is Cusco. All right, so I'm informed that Roche will come ahead of Cusco. Roche.
Cusco is the Cusco we know.
The one you know.
Yes, Chairman, is the Cusco, you know, the Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives.
The ones who have been trending of late.
So we'll start with Roche, then Cusco. Corazon and Tim.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Very quickly, we'll introduce ourselves.
Good afternoon, Chair and honorable colleagues. My name is Dr. Eileen Koske. I am a clinical operations lead from Roche, Kenya.
My name is Cora Zonongoro. I'm a senior manager at PwC representing Roche. Ours is, and we do have Rita at the tail end, and she'll help us with this. Ours is a proposal that is not currently sitting in the finance bill. It's a simple one, but one that demands attention, and therefore I'll ask Eileen to just give us a preface.
All right, thank you, Corazon. So just to give a background, Kenyans continue to struggle with exorbitant health care costs, primarily driven by the high cost of medication, which accounts for about 20 to 60% of the total healthcare expenses. Under the fourth medium-term plan, 2023 to 2027, the government also has recognized the lack of incentives for private sector investment in research and development. So currently, the government only allocates 0.8% of the GDP to research and innovation, which significantly lowers which is significantly lower than the 2% GDP threshold stipulated by the Science, Technology, and Innovation Act. So I'm going to just give you a bit of a background on the importance of medical and clinical trials, and then my colleague Corazon will highlight the problem issue, which is the VAT 16% that is applicable currently on our clinical trial kits. So the fundamental rule of clinical trials is to protect the rights, safety, and well-being of patients. I'll just paint a small picture for you on what that clinical trial is. So Roche is a global pharmaceutical company.
I thought you said Cusco is coming fast.
There was a request to switch Cusco and Roche, so Cusco will be next.
Oh, because now we are getting confused. We are
Sorry.
discussing medical...
Sorry for the confusion. So this is
I
Roche?
I think, Chair, you have issues with Cusco. but let's you cool down. Let's listen to Roche as you cool down.
I have no issue with Cusco.
So can I continue?
Yes.
And maybe cool you down before we continue with Cusco? So Roche is a global pharmaceutical company that is actually currently based in Basel, and it has two divisions, the pharmaceutical...
And for record, that's a new proposal you want to introduce. You are requesting to introduce.
Correct.
Is it in the bill?
No, it's not in the bill. We are requesting for it to be introduced.
Okay.
So it's a global pharmaceutical company with both pharmaceutical arm that typically produces the medicines and the diagnostic arms, which also incorporates the diabetic line care. So Roche Kenya is an affiliate of the global Roche company, and we are currently a distributor in the promotion, marketing, and distribution of diabetic care, diagnostic, and pharmaceutical products. The importance of clinical trials cannot be underscored. So what is clinical trials? Clinical trials basically is the research to get to know whether these new medicines that we're bringing about actually work in the patient population. We have typically 4 phases of a clinical trial, phase 1 until phase 4. Phase 1 is typically when you introduce the molecule for the very first time in humans, and then it progressively incorporates more patients. So for phase 1 trials, typically you have a small number of patients, about 20 to 30 patients, and typically you would have...
I think now you move quickly to the tax issue that you want to introduce. At least we have given us some background. Move quickly to the tax issue.
All right, I will articulate that. So when we conduct clinical trials in the country, there is a need to bring in the investigative products or the medicine or placebos that are to be used for this, and these come in kits. Now, these items, when they are imported by the likes of Roche, that are partners to government in research, they are being subjected to VAT. How has this problem resulted? The HS code, and I'd request that that's the right slide. So that HS code there is a new HS code. Every 5 years, the World Customs Organization revises the HS codes, which is what we base our own tariff codes on. And so in 2022, they introduced a particular HS code to track clinical trials, just so that they're able to track cross-border movement of medicine for research. And so what has happened is, you will see on the next page that in Kenya, pharmaceutical products are largely exempt now. When the VAT law first came into play in 2013, pharmaceutical products were zero-rated. But over time, all of these have then been migrated into the exemption schedule. So what has happened? This particular code that came through in effective 1st July 2022 does not sit on the exempt schedule, which means that unlike other medicine products, they are being subjected to VAT. And that means that Roche, who is a partner to government in conducting clinical trials, which government doesn't pay for, it is Roche sponsors this 100%, is having to pay VAT, which means that whatever is available to fund research is limited in terms of scope. So what we are requesting, Honorable Chair and Committee, is that this particular tariff code be introduced in the VAT exempt schedule, similar to other pharmaceutical products, which we all know are VAT exempt. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think our substantive chair has walked in. Maybe he can introduce himself and proceed from there. Chairman, you can, I don't know whether you introduce yourself or you proceed.
Thank you, Session Chair and my Vice Chair. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Sipia Kuria Kimani, MP for Molo and the Chairperson of the committee. We may proceed with you have finished your presentation. Are there questions from other members?
No, I think it's just a simple, they are seeking to be exempted, which I think it's something we can consider at the relevant time. Yeah. It's a new proposal.
The current status is vatable or exempt?
The current status is vatable because this HS code is new. It does not currently sit in the VAT law, similar to other pharmaceutical products.
And your ask is that you move now from being vatable to exempt?
Correct.
Okay, so I will receive. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and members. So the next team is Cusco. Vice Chair's team. Nicholas, you can lead the team.
Sorry, it's me to lead. Good afternoon, Chairman and other honorable members. My name is Paul Wanjala. I'm the Advocacy Manager of Cusco. Cusco, the Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives. Today, Chairman, we are here in our capacity as an advocacy organization representing the SACCO movement in Kenya. I don't want, because of time, I don't want to belabor to tell you the importance of the SACCO movement, because I know you know its importance. And accompanying me...
This is Kenya's Union of SACCOs?
Yeah, Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives.
Did you refund your customers?
Chairman, we are in the process. We are having sleepless nights, working around the clock that we refund the customers. It's not easy, but that is what we are doing.
Why can't you do the refund fast?
It's a process, Chairman, it's a process. It is a process which took several years to be where it is, but I can assure the honorable members here that every effort is being put in place, both locally and internationally, through the Cabinet Secretary, that we bring back Cusco to where it is. We are out there looking for money. We have put in place strategies, Chairman, to steady the organization. But however, that was not the agenda of today, but since I'm happy the honorable members know Cusco very well, I'm excited because I know you are members of the parliamentarian circle, you know how critical the movement is. And now on behalf of the movement, we are here to talk on behalf of the movement. And accompanying me.
So, just one comment.
Yes, Chairman.
You know, cooperatives is a center of our economy. Both I'm sure almost everyone here is a member of some cooperative. And so cooperatives are both, whether you earn a lot of money or even from our mothers and our grandmothers in the village. So we're now the one union that should be an example to all the SACCOs. We hear the loss of billions, and so it's very sad for all of us. But that's not the subject of the day. Please go directly to your asks. Now that we know Cusco very well, you don't need to introduce Cusco.
Thank you, Chairman. Accompanying me, other than the BWC team, we have 2 managers of our SACCO members, of our representative SACCOs. Maybe you'd introduce yourself for record.
My name is Jafud Mwenda. I'm the head of finance of Stima SACCO.
Good afternoon, Chair. My name is Kea William, the credit manager, Kenya National Police DT SACCO.
Thank you for the introduction. Chairman, today we just have 4 asks. And to put across those 4 asks, I call upon Nicholas from BWC to continue.
Thanks, Chairman and honorable members, and thanks, Wanjala. In front of you, we have 4 new asks that are not contained in the finance bill, and we are requesting to consider it when you go back. The first one is around the amendment of the definition of the term primary designated society. The second one is around the harmonization of the withholding tax payable on payments to SACCO members. The third one covers the increasing the tax exemption threshold, as well as the income tax bands for individuals. And then the fourth one is the harmonization of the personal and the corporate income tax rate. I think I'll let my team to introduce themselves as well as they tackle each section. The first one is around the amendment of the definition of the term primary designated society. Over to you, Linda.
Thank you, Chair and honorable members. So I'll be focusing on issue number 1, which includes the proposal to expand the definition of a primary designated society under Section 19A of the Income Tax Act. The current definition of a designated primary society under Section 19A7 of the Income Tax Act is limited to societies composed of individual persons. However, in practice, the SACCO movement has evolved, and it often includes groups, and these groups are composed of individual persons who pursue membership as part of the group. And the narrow interpretation of the primary societies under the Income Tax Act has led to differential tax treatment. And SACCOs composed solely of individual persons benefit from tax exemptions on interest earned from members. And in contrast, SACCOs who have both individual members and groups are excluded from these benefits. And to address this iniquity, we propose the amendment to Section 19A7 of the Income Tax Act to insert the words groups of individual persons after the words individual persons. And in our view, the amendment is going to harmonize tax treatment across all SACCOs, regardless of their composition of members. And it's going to also ensure fairness and equity in taxation of cooperative societies. The current definition of primary society has created an even playing field, and this has disadvantaged some SACCOs which serve community-based groups. And the SACCOs are often critical to the financial inclusion at grassroots level, and this amendment will therefore ensure that regardless of membership, they're treated equitably under the law. We've done some benchmarking around close to home in Uganda, for example. They have exempted SACCOs from paying taxes for 10 years, from 1st July 2017 to 30th June 2027. And this policy in Uganda is meant to encourage Ugandans to join financial institutions and move away from informal savings. While we are not advocating for SACCOs to be exempt like Uganda, we are just requesting for an even and equitable playing field for all SACCOs in Kenya. Similarly, in India, the tax treatment of cooperative societies is governed by the Section 80 of the Income Tax Act.
And here in India, the tax benefits are granted based on economical activities of the cooperative and not membership. And this approach is instructive for Kenya. It shows that the tax policy can be structured to support the purpose and function of cooperatives rather than limiting it on membership. In the Philippines, a cooperative member can either be a natural or juridical person, and tax exemptions are granted based on whether the cooperatives transacts with members or the general public. And their model reinforces the principle that tax treatment should be based on the nature of cooperative operations and not the form of membership. And Kenya can be able to draw from these jurisdictions just to to create a favorable tax environment for SACCOs. Thank you. That is all for issue number 1.
Thank you, Linda. I think for issue number 2, my colleague Josephine will deal with it.
Okay. Thank you, Nicholas. My name is Josephine Ongai, a tax manager at PwC, and I'll be presenting the second proposal for KUSCO, which is the harmonization of withholding tax rates on dividends and interest. So under this proposal, there's an ambiguity in the law on the rate of withholding tax that is applicable on distributions paid out by SACCOs to their members. Due to the differing interpretations between different people, there's a discrepancy between the industry stance and the KRA's position in the taxation of rebates from SACCOs, because SACCOs distribute their earnings to their members at 2 different levels. The first one is distributed on the shares, on the share capital of the members, which are the core shares, and the second distribution happens on the deposits of the members of the SACCO. So on the shares, they are viewed as dividends, but when it comes to interest rebates that are distributed at the end of the year, depending on the volume of business of the SACCO, then we've had instances with the industry has had challenges with the KRA, whereby KRA seeks to categorize this as interest payments, even though they're distributed to members based on the volume of business they have performed with the SACCOs and on the level of savings they have with SACCOs. So our proposal is to harmonize the rates of withholding tax that's applicable to dividends and the interest rebates to 5%, because this would simplify the administrative process and reduce the compliance risks by the SACCOs and provide clarity, fairness to members, and ultimately enhancing the overall efficiency and effectiveness of SACCO operations. It will also incentivize members to join SACCOs, because I think SACCOs, by the very nature of their businesses, their rates of interest are lower than market rates. They're lower than bank rates and other lenders in the market. So by default, their payments are lower than the market payout rates. So because of these unique business structures of the SACCOs...
Is it possible that you hear?
Yeah, and in order to safeguard the investment of the members...
Excuse me.
Yeah?
This side.
Hi.
It would be much easier on our end if you would tell us the sections or the clauses you'd like amended. Because when you, when you say that this treatment is different from SACCOs, can we quote the particular law, whether it is currently provided for in the bill, or if it's not provided for in the bill, that is a new, then it means you want a new proposal, and then you cite the section that you want amended.
Okay, Chair.
Madam Chair, maybe what is the withholding in terms of dividends and interest tax?
Yeah, so this is a new proposal. It was not there before. And there's, in the Income Tax Act, there's the provision for dividends under Section 34. Dividends and interests are subject to withholding tax. And in the third schedule, they are subject to withholding tax at 5% on dividends and 10% on non-qualifying dividends. And then for interest, it's withholding tax at 15%. So there's no specific, because of the SACCO's unique business structure and whereby they pay interest rebates, which is
a bit not like the other interest, because there's the monthly interest that is paid, but then at the end of the year, depending on the performance of the SACCO, then they distribute further interest rebates to their members. So there's no distinction between the ordinary interest and the interest rebates that are paid now by SACCO, and that is very specific to the SACCO business.
So you mentioned that the particular section would like amended is Section 34 of the Income Tax Act.
Yeah, we need an introduction of interest and rebates paid by SACCOs.
And then amendment to the third schedule.
Yeah.
Yes, so that we specify that the rate of withholding tax under the third schedule is 5%. Okay, yeah, so the justification of our proposal is because of the unique business structure of SACCOs. We also need to safeguard the investment of members, because as you've mentioned, the interest rate that SACCOs have is lower than the market rate. So in harmonizing these rates and making them 5% will be safeguarding the investment of members, and then enhancing compliance through simplification of tax administration, because we'll be having a unified rate, and then promoting access to credit in financial institutions of marginalized groups, because we'll be able to give them tax at lower rates. So some of the best practices we've seen under this is that in Tanzania, the rate of the withholding tax on dividends and interest, the rate of withholding tax on both dividends and interest has been harmonized, and it applies to all payments made by SACCOs to their members. So in Tanzania, it's at 10%. And in Uganda, the Income Tax Amendment Act of 2017 exempted SACCOs from withholding tax on dividends and interest up to June 30th, 2027, so for a period of 10 years, in order to promote savings and promote financial inclusion. So that's it on our second proposal, so unless we have any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Josephine. I think the last ones are relating to employment taxes. I'll hand over to my colleague Shreya to take us through.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. Our proposal is on increasing the tax-exempt threshold and widening the individual income tax bands under the third schedule of the Income Tax Act. So in our view, the existing bands are not progressive.
We're trying to understand this amendment to the third schedule. So you're saying the amendment, the withholding tax that you pay on dividends, there is two rates, 15% and 5%. Is that what I heard?
Sorry, for dividends. Sorry, Chair. For dividends, the rates of tax are two. In the Income Tax Act, there's a 10% and a 5%.
Which paragraph? Okay.
In the third schedule of the Income Tax Act.
But which paragraph? Because the third schedule, 5, talks about the resident withholding tax rates shall be, in respect of a dividend, 15% of the amount payable. And then in respect to interest, discount, or original issue, that the other paragraph is on government bonds. So we're thinking that the particular paragraph you're referring to is 5A, which says 15% of the amount payable in respect to dividends. So which are these two rates that you're referring to?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chair, it's 15% and 5%.
That's fine. We can get 15%. Are you? Do you have this same book?
Yeah.
If you take page 108.
Yes.
Paragraph 5 has, in respect of a dividend, 15% of the amount payable. Why is this other rate you're talking about of 5%?
Paragraph E, in respect of qualifying dividends.
Sorry?
Paragraph E, Mr. Chair, of the same, just the next page, page 109. In respect of a qualifying dividend, 5% of the amount payable.
So fine. So your proposal is we harmonize the two rates to have both rate 15%.
Let me step in, Mr. Chair. Yeah? So our proposal is to harmonize the two rates, and we have 5%, especially to payments done to SACCO members, ensuring just to incentivize people to join into SACCOs, as well as empower the financial services that have been granted under the SACCO space.
So this qualified dividend is what we are paid on share, on what you call share capital.
Share capital.
The other one is one we are paid on
your
contributions.
Contributions, yeah.
Okay.
The share capital is normally very low, right?
It depends. Some SACCOs have put a cap. Some SACCOs have left it open. So you'll find there are some SACCOs where members do contribute a lot of share capital.
But now the idea is to harmonize, so either have 5% for both or 15% for both. And they proceed on a light note.
For this harmonization, is it going to help Cusco?
It's going to help the members of Cusco, who are the...
Yes, Chairman, is going to help not only Cusco, but individual members. Actually, it's targeting individual members.
Okay, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So our next proposal is on increasing the tax-exempt threshold and widening the individual income tax bands, and this is under the third schedule of the Income Tax Act. So this is not SACCO specific. It will impact taxpayers wider than Cusco. So in our view, the existing bands are not progressive, with taxation starting at 24,000 shillings per month at a rate of 10%. And thereafter, a marginal rate, as we know, applies of 25% with incomes up to 32,333 shillings per month, which is a mere 8,333 shilling increase. So this indicates that the current tax structure is not progressive. So for example, if I were to bring it home, if an individual earns 30,000 shillings per month, they would incur taxes of about 640 shillings. And with the increase in the statutory contributions, this would amount to 3,400 shillings, which leaves them with a disposable income of just under 26,000. So they would therefore struggle to afford basic consumer goods, pay school fees, rent, support a family, cover food expenses. So therefore, we are proposing that the tax-exempt threshold is revised to anywhere between 480,000 shillings to 600,000 shillings per annum, which is about 40 to 50,000 shillings per month. And then thereafter, the remaining tax bands are made more progressive in line with our suggestion to increase the tax-exempt threshold. So since April 2020, which is when the lowest income tax band was expanded, the consumer price index has actually gone up by 31%, which indicates that the purchasing power for individuals has drastically reduced. If we then couple it with the pain of the increase in the statutory contributions, AHL, SHIF from October 24, AHL from March 2024, and then the further increase in NSSF from Feb 2025, disposable incomes have significantly been impacted, which is then having a ripple effect in our economy in terms of spending. So our next proposal is on the harmonization of the corporate income tax and personal income tax rate. I think the question you might say is harmonization in which direction? So we're proposing that they are harmonized to 30%, in line with our proposal to also reduce the top income tax band to 30%. So the primary aim, so we know that the primary aim for increasing tax rates, of course, is to raise revenue. But theories such as the Laffer curve suggest that raising tax rates does not always lead to higher revenues. And at the moment, with our impact on statutory contributions, we're seeing disposable incomes reduced, and therefore spending power has drastically reduced. So aligning the tax rates will also be in line with the government's strategy under the medium-term revenue strategy. So therefore, we propose that these are brought down to 30%. Currently, also, sole proprietors are at a disadvantage since if they earn 800,000 shillings per month, they will be subjected to tax at 35%, whereas a company earning the same would be subjected to tax at 30%. If we then compare to the region, Mauritius and Tanzania's rates for CIT and personal income tax are aligned at 15% and 30% respectively. So the unified rate will help individuals and businesses avoid, shifting of income between the tax categories. So I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lastly.
So, Chair, those are the proposals from Cusco. We stop for reaction.
I think they were really quite straightforward, and we had interactions during the discussion, so you can go to the next presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Well guided. The next group is Gogla and Kerea.
Okay. Introduce yourself and take us through some.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. So my name is Gideon Rotich. I'm an Associate Director at PwC. I'm here with the representatives from KEREA. KEREA is the Kenya Renewable Energy Association, and the Gogla that was mentioned is the Global Association. So here on behalf of the association, and we've come with some members, and I'd like them to introduce before we go to the details.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Cynthia Muhati. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Kenya Renewable Energy Association, a business member organization that represents players in the renewable energy sector, that is for manufacturers, individual companies, individuals, private companies, and also stakeholders, consumers in the sector because of the enabling environment activities that we undertake. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, on Chair and honorable members. My name is Walter Kipruto. I work for Gogla, Global Off-Grid Lighting Association. It's also a membership organization for off-grid solar industry, bringing almost 200 members globally. But we have a lot of presence in East Africa. Thank you.
Chair, good afternoon, and members. My name is Patrick Tonui, also with Gogla.
Okay, thank you. So we are here to present two main proposals that are contained in the finance bill of impacting the VAT. So the first proposal is the VAT Act.
Please switch off your mic. You only have one at the same time. Now, KEREA and Gogla, I think your issues are the same. So is it one presentation or two?
Yes.
One?
It's just, we are all making one. It's one presentation.
Proceed.
Yeah. So there is, oh, sorry, there's a please introduce.
Yeah, Chair, Honorable Chair, members, just a clarification. I think the alliance composes of 3 members, KEREA, Gogla, and AMDA. So I'm from AMDA, and AMDA is the African Mini-Grid Developers Association. We are a Pan-African association that represents mini-grid developers all over Africa, and we've got about 16 members in Kenya. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, members. My name is Kevin Kaloki. I represent chloride dioxide, part of KEREA. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Francis Kahura, representing Davies and Shatcliffe.
So thank you. You can see it's a wide range of members. So we are here in relation to the energy sector, more specifically the power sector. So there are certain proposals that are contained in the finance bill, And the first one I want to talk through is a proposal to delete a specific section which deals with specialized exemption on specialized equipment for generation of solar energy. So there's a proposal to delete that from the exempt schedule, and what that means, it will move it to 16%. So, from the current exemption to 16%, and our proposal is to retain that specific section, and primarily because of quite a number of factors, and I'll invite Cynthia just to take us through, just from an energy perspective where we are, and even as a country, when you look at our policies with regards to renewable energy. So as a country, we are proud that we are using over 90% of our power sources from renewable energy, but then if we try bringing some of these taxes, we may cripple that, and part of the Vision 2030 is to have 100% of our power from renewable energy sources. So just in a nutshell, we are proposing that this be retained as exempt. Cynthia, you can give a brief.
Actually, it's Walter. So that we do not duplicate what you're saying, we'll just do it.
Yes, so thank you. I think the biggest implication we see is on low-income households who rely on solar products. So that's one aspect that we see. The prices will increase, and therefore it will hamper our electrification process. The other option, which I think my colleague from AMDA will also touch on, is these off-grid areas would rely on these incentives to be able to reduce the cost of developing mini-grid projects, for example, in the ASAL regions. So I think affordability is one of the critical issues which will lock out most of the low-income households. And as we know, so right now the electrification in Kenya is around 75%, but the 25% remaining is mainly in the northern ASAL regions, and these are underserved regions. So they are basically being discriminated further, considering that the existing exemptions have actually also benefited the entire, the rest of the country. So I think it is really important for the committee to consider the electrification of these underserved regions. I think beyond that, actually we see, so if this exemption, if this proposal goes through as proposed, we see the country slowing down in the electrification rate, probably to the tune of about 100,000 households per year, considering that our population is also growing steadily. And when this market slows down, we also expect other economic ramifications, especially for the companies that have actually been creating these products and services in the sector. We see a bit of market shrink of about 25%. And what that means is there will certainly be job losses in the sector. There would certainly be low sales, which means the companies may not be able to sustain their operations. And consequently, that will definitely reduce also even the income the government currently earns. So the government earns corporate taxes and pay UAE. So if there is market shrinkage, that will also implicate that. So other than electrification, we also see other implications. I think the other thing that I also want to bring to your attention is that energy is a driver for social and economic development. So a lot of technologies are nowadays coming up for promoting productive use of energy. And I would give an example for small-scale farmers, for example, who are doing irrigation, acquiring solar irrigation pumps to be able to increase their productivity, to be able to increase the frequency of production and get more income. So we see this going to affect the productive use of energy, especially in areas where the grid is not there, or what we sometimes call weak grid, where the grid is there but doesn't reach most of the people, or as unreliability issues. So we see this economic uplift that these technologies can bring will basically be curtailed. Last but not least, So we are promoting green technologies that would help us to fight the adversaries of climate. And we see a lot of opportunities. I think the government is really currently eyeing to promote mitigation of greenhouse gas emission, and we can earn carbon credits out of this. So when we promote green technologies, we can definitely get other opportunities for getting revenue as a country, but also that can also benefit to lower the cost of these products. As closing, so I think from our analysis, we estimate that by government implementing these measures, both on the VAT, removal of VAT exemption for specialized solar equipment, but also moving the solar and lithium batteries from zero rated to exempt, we see the government losing actually revenue to the tune of around 200 million per year. And we are happy to be able to demonstrate this to the committee. I think we've provided our analysis in detail in our written submission. So maybe I will stop there, and maybe have any of my colleagues to complement and add, and maybe I'll start first with our colleague John from AMDA.
Thanks once again, Honorable Chair and members of the committee. I think my colleague has said everything that needed to be said. What I'm just going to add is that we all agree that we are here to, accelerate the pathway to scale in terms of affordable energy and electricity for our population, and that into achieving the 2030 SDG goal, right? And we have, I think, four factors in that SDG goal. One of them is affordable, second is reliable, third is sustainable, and four is modern. In terms of modernization, there is a lot of technology coming in, and we think that when we bring in taxation of this nature, we kind of cut that acceleration towards modernization. And I can go on and develop the kind of modern technologies that are coming in the solar industry, in the battery industry, with lithium batteries and all that. And then in terms of reliability, we know that the renewable energy is reliable, and that has been proven. In some terms of sustainability, that also we know, and if we bring in these taxes, we might, miss the target that we have set for 2030. So I just want to appreciate the committee for allowing us to provide this feedback on the Kenya Finance Bill 2025. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think your matter is very straightforward. The only concern and why you see this attempt in this finance bill doing a cleanup on the first and second schedule of the VAT Act is, does the benefit of that zero rating really go to the price of that particular product, or does it go to your profit? Last year alone, we spent 540 billion shillings on tax expenditures. Our budget for 24, 25, our development budget is only 650 billion, which means the amount of money we are spending on tax expenditure is almost the equivalent of how much we are spending in our development expenditure. And the question is, does this really go to help reduce the price of that particular product to the consumer? Most of your products, for example, are imported. When you look at the price when the dollar was 160 and when now it's 130, the prices have actually increased, and we would have expected that such a fundamental strengthening of our shilling would mean that those particular products will become cheaper. So what assurance do we have that this particular benefit would be transferred to the consumer, to the price of the end product?
Chair, if I may respond to that. We have previously submitted to the committee, and we'd be glad to provide this evidence that has shown in terms of the price impact when VAT comes in. To date, we know the sector today has contributed about 22% of Kenya's energy access of the 75% that's being reported by the national government. And also our industry and our members have shown what they would have to do in terms of price increases to accommodate these VAT. So, Chair, I think we can assure you that the pricing today reflects those exemptions. And I think we do have some members here who are in the business that can directly tell you what they will have to do to accommodate this exemption. But I think, Chair, it's important, and we recognize that, yes, this benefit has to reach the beneficiaries, the people targeted. It should not go just to essentially pad profitability. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I just also want to add, I think the companies are also doing much more to improve the affordability of the products. For example, by providing payment by installments over 6 months, over 1 year, over 1.5 year period, to ensure that the low-income households can be able to still pay, even though they cannot be able to afford what we call a higher tier solution, which is would likely be more expensive. So it is very, very important to see that that the industry is really reacting to that and still enabling people to get high-quality energy services, despite them being a bit relatively more expensive.
So maybe a quick example, how did your prices move between when the exchange rate was on 60 and when it's 130?
So Chair can answer that.
Sure.
So if you look at, for example, a 5 kilowatt lithium ion battery, that used to retail at around 250,000. It's now retailing at around 110,000. So if you look at also on panels, because they're priced per watt, I think at that particular point they were around 25 shillings per watt. Right now we are retailing them at around 18 shillings per watt. Thank you.
Could you resubmit, just update the document in terms of the price shift of what this movement will mean, and especially the basic product like cruise batteries? Just need to update the document you uploaded on our system. Thank you very much, Kerea and Gogla. Yes. Honorable Umi? Yes.
Chairman, I just wanted on the second proposal to retain supply of solar and lithium-ion batteries as zero-rated. Coming from a region that depends on off-grid solar system, I want to agree with them. And I also want to laud them for mentioning the marginalized areas. So I'm already declaring my interest here. The Chairman, tutapambana na wewe mbele. Thank you.
Thank you. The good thing you have a chance to make a decision, then we'll see which one wins. But thank you, Mheshimiwa Umi. Our next, you have exhausted all your presentations, PwC?
Not yet, so we still have 3 more. The next one is the Associated Battery Manufacturers and PwC and KBA. We're almost there, Chair.
Could you please allow us, I think PwC have given you some quite sufficient time, to just have a brief presentation by Honorable Kitur. He has also been with us the whole morning. Honorable Kitur, proceed.
Honorable Chair and members, my name is Bernard Kitur. I'm the Member of Parliament for Nandi Hills constituency. And in this regard, Honorable Chair, I come in as not only representative of the people, but also a parent. And with me is maybe he can just introduce himself, and then I'll take through the proposal that we have, Chair.
On a point of information, you will not be presenting as a representative of the people of Nandi Hills, you're representing as an individual, because you'll have a chance to represent them when you're debating this matter at the House. So I think you need to correct that. You're making this presentation as yourself.
Thank you very much, Chair, for that correction. Yes, I'm making this presentation as an individual. Thank you. A proposal.
Honorable Chair, I'm Dr. Geoffrey Kiprop. I'll be presenting this presentation together with Honorable Bernard Kichora.
Chair, I wish to propose in the Finance Bill 2025 an introduction of a health promotion levy in the soft drinks in the Kenyan industry. Just in an introduction, Honorable Chair, there is an increasing consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages.
I was wondering if Coca-Cola are here, and I've seen them at the back. They're busy taking a photo of the presentation.
Yes, actually, I had a very nice conversation earlier on, so I'm sure this will also interest them by being here. So there is the increasing consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages in Kenya has contributed significantly to rising cases of obesity, diabetes, and other non-communicable diseases. To mitigate this public health crisis, we propose the introduction of the health promotion levy in the soft drinks industry. This levy aims to reduce sugar consumption, to encourage healthier product formulation, and equally to generate revenue to support public health programs. The objectives of the levy that I am proposing is one, on health improvement, to reduce sugar consumption by discouraging production and purchase of high sugar soft drinks. Perhaps on this, Honorable Chair, I'll just give a minute or two to my colleague here to just maybe buttress it to you why this is justified as to why we want to propose this levy, this health promotion levy, particularly on matters of health of both Kenyans and our own children. Dr.
Yeah, Chair and honorable members, allow me to paint a picture of how we are health-wise in the last 5 years. According to a study done in 2022, 45% of women and 19% of men are either obese or overweight. That is borderline half of the gender population. This has increased from 33% in 2014 to 45% in 2022. Equally, children are not left behind. 4% of children now are overweight, with the 13% in adolescent. If we look historically, in 1969, we were consuming 35.5 grams of sugar. In 2009, we are consuming 60 grams per day, and this is per day. As of 2025, we are doing between 60 to 65. The WHO recommendation is at 50. So it means currently we are overdoing. Let me now redraw this. An average person in Kenya drinks per year around 25 kgs of a sack, you can imagine. So if you are a married couple, you're doing like you and your husband or your wife, you're doing 50 kgs. This now informs the statistic I just read, where we have around 3.1% of the population being diabetic. And this is projected to go up to 7% in the next 5 years if nothing is done. So maybe it can continue, then I'll continue there.
Yeah, that was just painting a picture, Honorable Chair, on this high consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages. Most of this, the contribution is actually around processed sugar being used in products. The second objective of this levy is the industry reformulation. We want them to encourage manufacturers to lower the sugar content in their products. And we will be able to demonstrate that in several other countries who have been able to implement the health promotion levy, in fact, one of them being South Africa, literally all the companies then have been able to reformulate their products. And I'll take even a case scenario. So sometimes when you take some drinks, those of us that have traveled, you go to other countries, you find that the drinks they take, the soft drinks they take there, the same brand, and what you take here tastes totally different. Sometimes even in the future, because we just wanted to start with the sugar-sweetened beverages, you will even not sometimes some confectionaries. When you have them out there, the tastes have got not too much sugar than as is in the same brands that are sold locally. The third objective is revenue generation. We wish to raise funds to support public health campaigns, probably school nutrition programs, and healthcare infrastructure. Lastly, we want to bring consumer awareness, where we want to promote healthier beverage choices and public education on health risks of excess sugar consumption. In that regard, therefore, Honorable Chair, we want to propose a tax structure that will be subject, of course, to a discussion between yourselves as the committee and, of course, the industry players. We wish to propose that a levy be applied to manufacturers and importers of sugar-sweetened beverages as follows. The base be set. Of course, we didn't come arbitrarily with this figure as captured. We have been able to study several countries, which have been able to highlight some of these countries that have actually implemented this, and we saw the lowest of them all was actually doing 4 grams per 100 mil as exempted from this tax. Therefore, anything above the 4 grams, we propose that for the local manufacturers, the beverage should to attract a rate of 1 shilling per gram of 100 mil above the set base. For the imported beverages, it be 2 shillings per gram of 100 mil beyond the set base. Honorable Chair, we will also propose some exemptions to this, that for those fruit juices that are 100% produced, that they are the natural juices, they have no added sugar, they be exempted. Equally, the dairy-based beverages containing at least 75% of milk content be equally exempted. As well, any of these beverages that are produced locally and they are meant for export, those ones also be subject to exemption. In our view, we wish that in the implementation of this be done by Kenya Revenue Authority to administer the collection of the levy, while the verification of the contents to be done by Kenya Bureau of Standards. As naturally has been, most of the products that are imported or done locally, we always give them to Kenya Bureau of Standards to be able to certify the contents therein. As I said earlier, the funds to be raised, we hope, should be used in the school feeding programs and public health awareness campaigns, subsidies for health beverage alternatives, and as well to support diabetes and non-communicable diseases prevention programs. What should be the impact then that we should expect, Honorable Chair, out of this is, one, there will be reduction in sugar consumption and obesity-related diseases. Increased innovation in the beverage industry towards healthier alternatives, as I've indicated, and perhaps also we will be able to submit research that was done by several of these countries that were able to implement this, and they were able to do a study of the improvements that have happened and how the industries were able then to innovate themselves and be able to produce products that are within the ranges of not utilizing too much processed sugar, which in a way, of course, affect the public. Finally, we expect that there will be strengthened public health initiatives through dedicated funding. I want to conclude by saying that introduction of this health promotion levy will significantly contribute to improving the health of Kenyans while promoting responsible industry practices. We well, that is the other thing. I just wanted to mention also, Chair, that this is not an exception, Chair. Just to mention a few countries that have been able to implement this, and I think as Kenya, we've been left behind. We need to have this conversation. Countries like USA, Bermuda, Mexico, Dominica, Barbados, Panama, Ecuador, Peru, Chile. In Africa, we have Morocco. I know Mauritius have tried a bit, Seychelles and South Africa, which South Africa was one of the benchmarks that we really wanted to use. In Europe, we have countries like Norway, Finland, UK, Ireland, Belgium, France, Hungary, Spain, Portugal, Middle East, several countries, and Western Pacific. I'll also give just an opportunity also to my colleague to also highlight something in about 2-3 minutes, and then we will be able to close our presentation, Chair.
Please conclude.
Okay, Chair, allow me to engage you. I don't know, do you put sugar in your tea?
I have not taken sugar for the last 15 years.
Okay, but a friend or a spouse or family member, give me an estimate of spoons.
My wife likes sugar in her tea, so yes.
How many spoons?
3 teaspoons.
Yeah,
I think
3.
Two
to 3.
Yeah.
That is normal. But do you know some of these soft drinks do up to 15 of the same? Yeah, for around a 500 ml. And that's why we need to come in. We need to put in laws that will regulate this. Some of these young kids, you'll see them, they love yogurt. But they don't love the yogurt in yogurt, they love the sugar in the yogurt. It is a disaster in happening. As it stands now, in public and private school, 29 kids are either obese or overweight. And these are pre-diabetic. As they grow, they may they're highly predisposed to diabetes type 2 and other non-communicable diseases. Now, allow me to continue. Based on the countries you mentioned, I'll just pick 3 countries. In South Africa, once they implemented, they were able to raise a revenue of $170 million, which was spent in healthcare, and there was a 28% reduction in the sugar in the drinks. In UK, they did the same. They were able to raise around 340 million per year, and there was a reduction in the sugar by around 30 to 40%. Because it's around lunch hour, I would not want to continue. I can read the mood in the room. Yeah.
So finally, Chair, it is in our view, and a proposal is apparent, as my colleague had ably mentioned, sometimes we have too much sugar in some of these drinks. I'll even draw your attention to some even of, mango juice of some of the big juice processing companies, that you cannot even take that mango juice unless you add water. This, I could not have been able to do so when I was a bit younger. But I'm now getting conscious of myself and my health. Many times we have to even add water into it. So why should we have to subject ourselves into, we have nobody to take control, because the manufacturers, most of the manufacturers, perhaps whether responsible or not, don't have anybody who manages them in how they are able to infuse or put sugar into these drinks. So in our view, and my proposal is that we now have a consideration on how do we manage the amount of sugar that is actually put in the drinks that we take. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kitur, and thank you, Dr. Kiprop, for your presentation. Are there concerns from members? Honorable Paul, Honorable
Umi. I was just wondering whether KEBS measure the level of sugar in juice. And would you know the quantity based on each drink? Would they be able to know the quantity, what you are saying, so that we can, I think I've heard the gentleman say that there's an equivalent of, is it 15 teaspoons of sugar in one bottle of either yogurt or juice, which is actually very high.
Yes.
So what is your thinking, or have you found out anything about what does KEBS have to say about it? Thank you.
Yes, as of now they do, but then they do it as a routine, not as a way of checking for levy or anything. It is possible to be done. And some are even indicated on the labels.
Okay, to just put it a bit neater.
Yeah.
Is there a standard? Do we know what is the standard that KEBS Parliaments have approved of the quantity of sugar to be put in those juices, are they exceeding, or what is the required quantity?
As it stands, it is an open field. We are following maybe the WHO guidelines. But what has happened as new manufacturers are setting up, one of the aggressive marketing campaigns they are using is to ensure a drink that is released is more sugary than the other. So there is no any cap as of now. That's why we are proposing like a base rate of 4 grams per 100 ml, and anything beyond that can attract a levy.
Allow me also, Honorable Chair, to answer it from this perspective. Honorable Chair has mentioned that he doesn't take sugar, but he still takes tea. He mentions also the spouse does 2 teaspoonfuls, and they still take tea. Now, we have a scenario here where it's an open-ended kind of a thing. And we all know, certainly everybody even seated here today, are conscious because of the age where we are all conscious of the amount of sugar that we take. The reason why Chair doesn't take that is because of just being conscious. So can you imagine that we now have some juices that are brought in our houses, our homes, and do you know how our kids do? They just take it, a lot of them. You cannot even control it. So it's a competition of who puts too much sugar, who makes their products too sugary or too sweet. So it's just a consciousness that we want to bring to Kenyans. That's why even at some point I said that a time has come that now we have this conversation that we are saying, let us be conscious of what we are able to put in our products. So some of the way to do it is also put in some period of a levy, so that in that levy, in fact, whatever we get out of it, let us use also to use it for education, but at the same time we promote our health lives as Kenyans. Thank you.
Mheshimiwa Umi.
Thank you, Chairman. We're having a very interesting conversation here. I'm also in your team. I think I've not taken sugar for the last 17 years. Wow. And the first 3 months after I stopped taking sugar, I lost 3 kilos. Then I maintained the rest because of other reasons, but it's not because of sugar. Yeah. So it contributed to my weight loss. Maybe I was eating sugar indirectly in my starch, but I was not mixing sugar in my tea or juice. Actually, I avoided juice because juice you can't take without sugar as much. So I avoided, I was just taking water. And for those tea lovers, if you get to know how it tastes, you would stop taking sugar. Because tea without sugar tastes really nice. Plus my black tea, because people ask me, how can you take black tea without sugar? I'm like, it's just mentality, it's how you take it. Anyway, Honorable Chair, that's why we have our kids who get tantrums, who are hyperactive because of these sugars, because it's not controlled. And I have sisters who say when the sugar level goes down, they grab a Fanta so that it spikes. And coming to think of it, when you travel outside Kenya, I sometimes say, because I also take soda sometimes. When I feel I'm in Mandera and I'm so tired and my sugar levels go down, I take a Fanta just to put me into the mood. So I'm thinking the sodas that we take out there, sometimes you have no choice but to take. Doesn't exactly taste like the sodas we have here. And I used to be told Coke has 7 teaspoons. Coke before the 500 ml, which was now the 300 ml in the glass bottle, has 7 teaspoons. You can imagine 7 teaspoons in a cup of tea.
It is 9.
My only request on Abumi is not to mention the brands.
No, I'm just saying, because they're also here, so that they're here. They will justify once they come before us, Chairman. You know, we are talking about health issues here. But Dr. Kitur, where I did not get you right is, are you after getting the levies or taking care of our children? Or our health in general, because what you're saying is the higher they go, the higher the levies they pay. Are you saying we cap it into some level, some grams, or we give them that leeway of adding more and we take more from them? Thank you very much.
Maybe I'll help you, Mr. Honorable Kitur, so that we make progress. They're proposing that for local average beverages at a rate of 1 shilling per gram per 100 ml above the set base. So they have what they're recommending as a set base. So if you go anywhere higher than the base, now the levy will be, or now what is over and above that. Okay?
Chairman, because this is beverages, and I believe this falls, alcohol falls under this, and I've never taken alcohol. Could you tell us if alcohol is also one of these?
Thank you very much. I think I was very careful not to enter into a wide conversation. I'm just opening the door for this country to now begin to have a discussion. And I know there's been a lot of discussion on the alcoholic beverage. So this time around I said, let's start from where, particularly when I'm affected. This is a discussion that we can widen. I'm affected because I'm a parent. And therefore I said, let's start with the soft drinks. And also this one has been implemented by other countries. There's a lot of jurisdictions to be able to, compare from. But I just want to mention something, Chair, as well, that in other countries who have implemented this, for example, in UK, there was originally, there are particular drink that had 10.9 grammage in the 100 ml. But when this law was passed, they were able to reformulate and did it at 4 grams, 4 to 5 grams per 100 ml in the UK. So what then essentially it means is it is possible that we can be able then to control some of this. Nobody will just be throwing, sugar the way they want into any drink, which will be consumed by our own loved ones. And I'm also very happy that you mentioned that when you stop taking sugar, you are able to manage quite a number of things, including your own weight, which you've actually mentioned in the early introduction, that there's a lot of obesity and those kinds of things. So essentially, Chair, this is a conversation that I'm 100% sure many Kenyans are going to support. And it is not my intention to be able to raise the revenue. That was not the intent. My intent is just the promotion of the health, not only of my generation, but the future generation, that we are able to say any manufacturer be responsible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kitulu, for that very, you're going to raise, that's going to be a matter of national debate, as you would expect. The only two challenges that your proposal does, in terms of the intended purpose, you're saying it should go to support health initiatives, support school feeding program. But in the current form that you propose the law to be, that amendment would come under Miscellaneous and Levies Act. It will be collected by KRA, and it will go to the consolidated fund. So then you may have to rethink if what you want to do is the health promotion that you want to do, you may have to rethink having a separate law, okay, that now safeguards that money is used for that particular purpose. But now, as with the way you've proposed the bill, the amendment as it is, that money will just go to the consolidated fund, and there's no assurance that it will go to the purposes in which you are intending those particular purposes. You asked why I stopped taking sugar. Money is not even any of those reasons. So my grandfather used to take Ndufia. Ndufia is now tea without sugar. So when now the tea would be ready, ours would be inawekwa sukari, and then yake inarudishwa jikoni, inaongezewa maziwa. So I noticed this one is better because it has more milk than that one. But then I would cheekily look for sugar and add to mine. So I am taking tea with more milk and with sugar. So nikashikwa siku moja. Sasa nikienda kuweka nikasema nilisahau sikunywangi sukari. So I started taking Ndufia and now got used to it. And thank you, Mheshimiwa Kitulu. Let's go back to
Chair,
observation of battery manufacturers. Yes?
Yeah, Chair, just on the advice that you've given, I think it would be very important. I didn't want to give a rebuttal of the same. I know it's an advice that you're giving. I would say, Chair, in the interest of time, had I gone through the normal legislation in Parliament, this would have taken me, up to the next session. And in my view, I feel, because I want to repeat again, I am a generational parent. And therefore, this is a matter of great concern. We can have this discussion later in how we would want the collected monies to end up. But for now, if it's possible, in whatever form or manner, since I've appeared before your committee, Chair, find a way that this can come in to have a conversation about it. I can flex a bit on the aspect of what this money needs to be done, even if it goes to a consolidated account. But can we have responsible, manufacturing of these products or importation of these products in our country, but that focuses more on the tests rather than having sugar as the only model or an innovative way of manufacturing products in our country that are not meant to just necessarily be just sugar being added. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. Thank you, Daktari. Association of Battery Manufacturers of Kenya.
Thank you, Chair.
You're still under PwC, yeah?
Yes. under
PwC. This time around, you have so many clients.
Maybe just a brief on who associated battery manufacturers are. Associated battery manufacturers, we do manufacture automotive and solar lead acid batteries. We are the biggest factory in East and Central Africa. A lot of our manufactured products, 55%